So yesterday saw Hutch release their F1 Clash roadmap for August. So this is designed to give players visibility on what features Hutch are working on and what you can expect to see in F1 Clash. So we're going to get into some of the changes. We're going to give our opinion on them as well. And let's see what it's all about. Hopefully this is going to steer F1 Clash in that right direction. First of all, though, let's give you an explanation as to each section. So we have the checkered flag. So these roadmap is where basically there's some final polishing, some testing required before they're ready for release. So they are going in the game. We've got final lap. We've got features listed on various stages of development. More possibility in their timelines moving depending on complexity and testing taking place. So again, pretty much coming in the game. We've got starting line, so in early stages of development, these features might be spread out of different releases over time and subject to change. And then we've got parc fermé. So in here is pre-production, early design, research and development. So they've not entered any deployment and might not even stay as an opportunity. So in update 31, which is coming around the 4th of September, Hutch originally said, we've got some of these in the checkered flag, so final stages of development. So first of all, we've got the power-ups. So if you hadn't checked my previous video around bug fixes, power-ups, you're looking at basically ×2, ×4, ×6 reputation points. You're looking at crate timers, double coins, all basically power-ups to enable you to earn more in the game. That is currently pretty much all we've got, and we're waiting to see what happens with that. They'll be in spinners, potentially pit passes, so it's going to be interesting to see what is released and how beneficial they are, but they're in the final stages. We've got some track updates, so we know Abu Dhabi and Spain both have corner changes, and they've been out for, well, Spain a couple of years, Abu Dhabi or even a couple of years, Spain a year. They are coming into F1 Clash and they are due in update 31, which comes in September. And then we've got the returning track. Now, this was teased last week as a returning track to F1 Clash. Which track? That was guesswork, but we now have it. Monaco makes a return after some licensing issues in the past, which saw Monaco disappear from our F1 Clash calendars. We now have Monaco back, which will make it a very interesting, potentially frustrating track to come across. So we move to final lap. So this is probably past September in future releases coming up. So we've got legendary drivers. So legendary drivers from the F1 history unlocked by only the most successful players. Now that's interesting. How do we become the most successful players? How do we unlock them? What do we get? Do they make the successful players even more successful, or is it going to be a bit different? Are they going to be the same as our Series 12? Are they going to be usable? That's going to be very, very interesting at all to see what happens. So collecting a range of assets will unlock legendary rewards, so change in the asset collections, potentially the asset trading. Legendary rewards, what is that? We've got common, rare, epic. What is legendary? Are we getting further components and drivers? Or is legendary rewards part of power-ups? Who knows? So we need to keep earning them assets. We've got track updates as well. Updates to Jeddah this time based on the changes in the F1 2023 season. So a lot of good changes coming up, you could say. And then featured asset boost highlights, so improvements to the visualization when using featured assets. So a lot of good changes coming up in just them two, and I want to focus more on the changes and hopefully they go in successfully, which I'm sure Hutch does want. But there's some very interesting changes coming through, and I think these benefit us players absolutely. Some of these changes have been called for. Okay, so we look at starting line. So early stages of design and development, probably a good 3 or 4 months at a guess away from being released. That's very minimum, I would probably argue. So we've got a new track. We've got Las Vegas circuit that's currently being worked on. So that's another one to have a look at. Very, very nice to have new tracks on F1 Clash. So, another one. we've currently got club tournaments coming. Now that's interesting, because if you've ever played like me, Clash of Clans, you go club v club. Are we going to be doing something similar? Are we going to be racing on tracks against each other? Who can score the most points takes that victory? Let's see what club tournament does involve. Is it who earns the most rep? There's a lot to answer there, but I think it's fair to say clubs are very stale at the moment. There's not a lot to play for. We've got no in-game leaderboards. The rewards are very minimum as well, so I think there's definitely need to spice clubs up and make it more rewarding. Hopefully club tournament and rewards that potentially could come with it really do spice up the club game. I think that is definitely a change that is needed. We've got some debrief screen improvements as well. So making improvements to the screen alongside some very, very big news. So Grand Prix event grouping changes. Now, if you've watched many of my videos, I've always told you that you must stay low flags to have a chance in Champions GP, or an easier chance in Champions GP. Now, a lot of you will listen to me and stay low. A lot of you will make the mistake and go high, and you'll realise why now when it's so difficult to qualify in GP. We have a Grand Prix event groupings change in the pipeline. How are they going to group players? That is the big one. My personal recommendation is to group players based on their maximum team score. That is the best way of making it fairer. So, you know, when you go to enter a GP and it tells you your recommended score to play this GP is 1500, and it will say your score is currently 1346. That is taken from your maximum team score. I want to see GP groups based on team score. So everyone who's got a 1600 or around 1600 gets merged with 1600. It makes a completely open group of who can perform best on the day. I personally think that is the most and the fairest way possible, rather than stay low and just abuse the low flag system. And I'm in the low flag system too, because it's part of the game. If it's part of the game, why don't you do it? That is one of the big things. So in Park Fermata, the very early thinking about developing, we've got driver traits, so unique abilities and bonuses to drivers which will unlock certain conditions. We've got a champion series, so a special series available only to the best players in F1 Clash, complete for awards, medals, and most of all, bragging rights. Achievements and daily goals, so permanent and limited time achievements to both help players develop at winning and earn rewards. So that's one thing I did shout for originally. I wanted to see daily challenges or something in there, so it rewards players for racing. So I don't know, make 200 overtakes in a day, get a gold crate. For example, that's what I wanted to see. More rewards and more challenges to keep people occupied. And then we've got club improvements. So multiple improvements in the club system, not limited to new rewards. So title holders, we've got tracks and global leaderboard. So a lot more stuff to make a lot more value to that clubs. As we mentioned earlier, clubs is a bit stale. This, I feel, needs to be improved, especially with clubs facing a big part in the game. So, with all that said, that is the roadmap. So I think it's a very promising roadmap. I know there's bugs that come out after releases, and I hope that Hutch get on top of that. And I don't want to focus too much on the doom and gloom right now. I think some of these improvements coming in are very good. As long as the updates go in successfully and we don't get big bugs off the back of it, everyone will be happier. And I think there's some interesting things in here. Like legendary drivers is going to be very interesting. Legendary rewards, very interesting as well. And then we've got the club tournaments too. So there's definitely some more information needed. But I think F1 Clash, is it heading in the right direction? I think so. But the proof will be in the pudding as always. So let's see what happens over the next few months. Probably next 6 months with F1 Clash.